away from the doctors, and they give it to the hospital, same amount of money, but it doesn't give Blue Cross Blue Shield, standing over here, any money. Well, that's not a good idea. We don't want to do that. So then they said, all right, well, maybe what we'll do then is we'll put just in the contracts, we'll say that the hospital's responsible for paying the doctors, the professional component of clinical pathology. We, Blue Cross Blue Shield, will contract with the hospital and make the hospital pay them. We'll do that. No. Never did that. They never changed their agreements. And they admitted they didn't do that. They didn't do it. Then they decided, well, we're not going to take the money from the doctors and give it to the hospitals. We're not going to change the contracts with the hospitals to say the hospital has to pay the doctors. But we're going to stop paying the doctors anyway. And we're not going to tell the hospitals to pay the doctors, and we're not going to make the hospitals pay the doctors. And then, when we get sued, this is in the documents, because remember they talked about the litigation? We're going to make an argument. And the argument is going to be this, that amount is already included in the amount we pay the hospital. Even though we didn't pay them any more money, even though we didn't change the contracts. And you remember the testimony of Andrew Lepkowski, who was on the video? He was the one that was responsible for hospital contracting, and he said, we never did it. We never changed the contracts, and we never paid the hospitals any more money. And remember when I asked him, well, given all the risks that they take and the work that they do, don't you think they're a former employee? Don't you think that the doctors should be paid for the professional component of clinical pathology services they provide? What was his answer? Yes. Yes. Remember Rosie Stetzer, the person that was trying to get the doctors paid for the professional component of clinical pathology, used to work for them. She sat up here. What did she say? Well, she said the doctors didn't want to work anymore. Didn't want to sign contracts with them to work with them under contracts because they weren't getting paid the professional component of clinical pathology. So she tried to get the doctors paid the professional component of clinical pathology. But the defendant said, no, we're not going to pay you that. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do that. And then she's the one that said, well, why not? Because we're already paying the hospitals. And you remember that I asked her, well, would you be surprised to find out they weren't paying the hospitals to pay the doctors? Remember her answer? Yeah. I'd be surprised. What did the hospitals say? The hospital, we got the chief financial officers or the CEOs of Coral Gables Hospital, Palmetto Hospital. What did they say? When we asked them, we brought them in here, we asked them, hey, did you get any other money from Blue Cross Blue Shield to pay the doctors the professional component of clinical pathology? No. Did your contract say that you got paid more money to pay them? No. Did your contract say you have to pay them? No. By the way, what are you paying the doctors? Zero. Nothing. How do they get paid? And it was in the contract. They have to bill the insurance company for the professional services that they provide. That's how they get paid. That's exactly how they get paid. Now the defendant's going to argue to you, well, they don't get any. They don't do anything. That's what you're going to hear. They don't do anything. It's all machines. Machines do everything. And they have all these staff people that the hospital pays for. And they have all the equipment provided to them and office space. That's how it is. They don't do anything. We don't have to pay them. Well, folks, unfortunately, the law says, Florida law says, and this court will instruct you, you do have to pay them. That's the law. That administrative regulation, remember when it had Mr. Conway up there who was discussing it on behalf of the defendant, and he said, well, yes, we're bound by the administrative regulation. Yes, we're bound by Florida state law. And then he said, show it to me. And we showed it to him, and we walked him through everything. He said, yeah, when we have a hospital that we're contracted to, and our member subscriber goes to that hospital, and they get services from this doctor that does not have a contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield, yes, we're required to pay them for the services that they render. Yes, we are. That's their vice president, who admits that. And what else did he admit? Remember when he said he was trying to suggest that, well, we're trying to save money because health care goes up 12 to 14% a year. Remember that? And we're trying to save money. Well, did you put the money back in the customer's pocket? Remember when I asked him, where's the letter that says that? Where's the memo that says that? Where is it? Well, we don't have one. And then I showed him the letter that said, what it says is you're going to save $4.1 million a year for Blue Cross Blue Shield. A year for Blue Cross Blue Shield. Not to the members. And remember the last question I asked him? Do you guys get bonuses on your profits at Blue Cross Blue Shield? Yes. Yes. So what's the evidence in this case? Blue Cross Blue Shield gets to bonus their executives on the profits that they make, on the backs and hard work and sweat and risk that these doctors take every single day, making important calls in the laboratory setting as to whether people have diseases, have cancer, have problems based on tests that they do in the clinical laboratory, on blood tests, on fecal samples, on skin tests, on urine tests, on pap smears. Every single one of the patients that they see, thousands of patients that go through these two hospitals on a yearly basis, rely on their making the right call. When people in general have family members in this hospital and they're waiting for the diagnostic tests, they're hoping and they're praying that those diagnostic tests are right, that they're correct, that they were looked at by a medical doctor. Because everything regarding healthcare is done after those diagnostic tests are done. A person comes in with a problem, what's the first thing they do? They take blood, they take samples, they figure out what's going on. How is that figured out? In a laboratory. If there's a problem with the laboratory, the whole system goes down the tube. And let's face it, if the doctors aren't paid fairly, if they're not paid fairly for the work that they do, what's going to happen? If the state of Florida, if this insurance company now says, well, we don't have to pay fairly, we don't have to do that, where are the doctors going to go? They're going to go to states where they're going to be paid fairly. They're going to go into other areas of medicine where they can be paid fairly. They're not going to go into this area. We're going to lose pathologists. They're going to go to different states. Quality healthcare will go down the tubes. And where are they going to spend most of their focus? If they're getting paid for anatomical, and they're not getting paid for the professional component of clinical pathology at all, well, what areas do you think they're going to go into? It's common sense. So, do we promote not paying for the professional component of clinical pathology? Or do we say it's an important aspect that needs to be fairly and fully compensated? That's the issue. And it has to be fully and fairly compensated. Because if we don't, the risks are too great to all patients in the state of Florida. And for what? So that we can increase the bottom line budgetary profits of the defendant, Blue Cross Blue Shield, so that they can pay their executives more money? Is that the greater good that we're seeking for health care? I submit to you that the evidence is very powerful in this case. We only had to prove it by the greater weight of the evidence, but I submit to you that it has been proven beyond and to the exclusion of any reasonable doubt that these doctors provided valuable, necessary medical services to their patients at Palmetto Hospital and Coral Gables Hospital, and they have not been paid one dime for those services. Zero. That's not fair. Who did the defendant bring to you? They brought you an economist. Remember the economist? Who's made $1 million over the last 5 years working for Blue Cross companies. $1 million as a consultant, as an expert on defense cases, defending Blue Cross Blue Shield. Not a medical doctor. Never made any medical decisions in his life, or made any medical opinions, or saved anybody with medical decisions. A lobbyist in Rhode Island. That's what they brought you. That's what they brought you. And he made $80,000 just in this case. And he's going to get paid $475 an hour. And he sits up here, and what does he say? Wow. Don't think the doctor should be paid for the professional component of their clinical pathology services. And every single minute he's testifying, he's getting paid for it. And these doctors are sitting there taking all the risks, saving lives, making tough medical decisions, assuring quality control in their laboratory.